Good morning, everyone. We are still waiting for a few more attendees to join us. Thank you all for joining us, those early birds who already did. I am excited to open the session today that will discuss an important topic that is digitalization. I think it's probably time to start, Lai, huh? Okay. Let's kick off. Okay, I'm Mona Uri, and I'm the founder of Momentum, the organizer of this webinar in partnership with Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung. Let me first quickly introduce Momentum and why we are doing this. So founded in 2014 and based in Singapore, Momentum is an organization that provides women entrepreneurs with the support they need to achieve success. And by success, I mean growing, sustainable, and profitable businesses. As many of you in the audience may relate, entrepreneurship can be an exciting but a very tough journey. So accessing a support system is of critical importance. We also get asked a lot, why focus on women entrepreneurs? The answer to that, in short, is because we know firsthand and based on data that women entrepreneurs face gender-related challenges that their male counterparts don't. And those challenges really hinder their chances to fulfill their business growth potential. And so we set out to address that through targeted efforts. Now, as you know, digital technologies are fundamentally changing the way we live, work, and innovate, touching every sector and opening new doors for business growth. And in fact, a recent report published by Google and Temasek estimates that the Southeast Asian digital economy will hit $300 billion by 2025. And we want women entrepreneurs to be equipped to be part of it. You know, keeping their businesses relevant, be prepared to scale, and enabled to actually really flourish. And not only that, we firmly believe in the long run that this digital revolution can help women entrepreneurs overcome their gender-specific challenges. And in turn, empowering their families, their communities, and their society as a whole. And with this in mind, we recently conducted a research in 4 different countries, Indonesia, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Malaysia, to shed light on the new opportunities that digitalization brings to women-owned businesses, and to provide also workable, practical solutions and recommendations to multiple stakeholders, to the public and private sector, in order to help these businesses in the adoption process. So our panel today represents those 4 countries, and we'll share current trends, but also tangible examples of how digital technologies in their industry are helping businesses like yours. So there are endless possibilities, and it can be overwhelming. Many are uncertain how to begin the transformational journey, wondering what strategy should I adopt, how do I learn about it, and who will help me implement it? Is the technology I want available to me in my local context, and is it within my budget? So if these are some of your questions too, I hope you find some answers today. And I'd like now to thank our esteemed panel for joining us. Thank you so much for your time and for your contribution. I would like to also thank my team at Momentum, the country research teams for their tireless work throughout the last 6 months in the midst of COVID-19. The report is over 200 pages. It will be translated into Khmer, Burmese, Bahasa, and also Japanese. And it will be launched soon. So please look forward to checking it out for more research findings. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude and my most sincere gratitude to Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung for the tremendous support to bring this research to life. Thank you, Cristina Perez, for driving this big project and for your guidance. You really helped us make a difference. And now, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the session, Ms. Rabia Bauer. But before that, I would like to tell you who she is. So she's the chief representative of CAS in Japan. And of course, it's thanks to her and her team that all this has happened. She's also the director for the regional program named Economic Governance in Asia. And Rabia has also a long experience in Asia Pacific. On behalf of her state government and CAS, she implemented administrative reform projects in Cambodia, funded by the EU. She also represented CAS in Vietnam. From the headquarters in Berlin, Rabia has led the Asia and Pacific Department. She was responsible for 23 offices in Asia and Pacific and has published a number of articles on China, the US-Asia relations, and the South China Sea conflict, and on the Mekong River. I think it's a lot of things. So Rabia, the floor is yours now. Thank you so much and enjoy the session.
This one is a very special one. So I'm very, very honored to be the moderator today. Thank you very much, Muna, for your very kind introduction. Thank you, Muna, for making this happen and for pulling together this amazing panel. I'm very honored to steer you through the 1.5 hours that we have today. And I also like to thank everyone who was involved, from our team, from your team, from all of the helpers out there to make this happen, not just today, but you mentioned the publication. We look very, very much forward to this book, and I'm sure it will make a difference in the discussions set forth. A word maybe on the Konrad-Adenauer Foundation. I know that we have an office in each of our panelist country, and I'm sure we have an office in the countries of our attendees. So please look out for, if you haven't already cooperated with us, please look out for the CAS office in your country. We are a political foundation, a very unique setting. We are driven by our missions of rule of law, good governance, and social market economy. A little bit our subject here falls into this. We have 120 offices worldwide, and in that point, I also like to say hello to my colleagues, my dear colleagues who are watching from the particular countries presented today. In Japan, we are present since 10 years. We are, compared to the other Asia offices, a newbie in Japan. The office in Japan focuses on the bilateral partnership between Japan and Germany, but also we are housing and hosting the regional program Socio-Economic Governance in Asia that is built on 3 particular pillars. One is multilateralism and international trade. The other one is the future of work. And the third pillar, very important, is enhancing women into leadership positions. And this is exactly why we are meeting today. We started this project with Mona to look into the repercussions, not just of COVID, but also to the speedy technology, to the digitalization that makes it difficult for companies to adapt. And women here are a very special case. We also found that out in our research because of lack of education, because of family requirements, and because of social disadvantages. We want to learn how women-led businesses adapt their businesses to digitalization, and can they drive it to their advantage. So we have an amazing panel today. Thank you very much for being here. As a little bit of for housekeeping, we will have no PowerPoint slides because we want to see faces. We want to get your opinions straight from it. We want to get into in-depth discussion so that we will not be disturbed. So I said that before, the focus is on the discussion, and I'm looking very, very much forward to your opinions, to your shared experiences in your various fields. We have set time aside for a panel discussion. Later on, we will have 20 minutes. Please send us your questions in the Q&A box at any time. It will be picked up, and I will address it then to our dear panelists. So let us now begin, and let me introduce our dear speakers. I would like to start with the man in our rounds, Manu Rajan. It's my pleasure to have you on board. A little bit to your bio, which is very impressive. You are the Chief Executive Officer of WING, stationed in Cambodia. WING is a limited specialized banks, and you have over 20 years of experience in technology and marketing, and you are driving financial inclusion development markets in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. And at WING, you're providing financial inclusion to the unbanked and underbanked, opening up cases to financial services for Cambodians. So very, very important work you're doing, and we do want to learn more about it. And I like to have the first 3 minutes with you to tell us a little bit about WING and how digital payments have created new opportunities for SMEs in Cambodia. Manu, good morning to you, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Rabea and the rest of the panel, and thank you for that introduction. Yes, I did notice that I'm literally the odd man out today. But I consider it as my privilege to be digitally surrounded by such eminent women personalities from the region on International Men's Day to talk about digital opportunities for women SMEs. And today also happens to be the International Men's Day. Talking about WING, we are an organization that was started 12 years ago, and we started as a pilot project by ANZ Royal Bank under the watchful eyes of the National Bank of Cambodia, with an intention to replicate the success that M-Pesa in Kenya was achieving in driving financial inclusion at the bottom of the income pyramid. And they were using mobile financial services to do that. So we wanted to replicate that in Cambodia. But unlike M-Pesa, we failed in our first attempt, mainly because we tried to act as a bank while trying to appeal to the unbanked. So after 3 years, ANZ Royal sold WING to the current shareholder, Royal Group, and thereafter it was turned around. In a single sentence, if I were to sum up how it was done, which I usually do on forums like this, then it is that we painstakingly and product by product unbanked the bank to bank the unbanked. And that's how it became what it is today. We started using mobile numbers of customers as the unique identifier for agent banking, and that was the tipping point. Sometimes it amazes us when at WING, when we realize how people and businesses in Cambodia hack new solutions out of it every single day. Some of them uses for collection of payments, some use along with our partners for invoicing solutions. Most of the SMEs uses for invoicing solutions. Some of them use WING for supply chain payments. The large corporates uses for collecting payments through their supply chain. And some use WING for online payments abroad and using our MasterCard product. The social commerce micro SMEs in Cambodia, usually women-led, they use WING for collecting payments from their customers online. They go on Facebook, they do a live video, and they display their products, and then they ask people to send money to them through a WING account. And once the money reaches them, they ship the products. So there are multiple innovative ways through which different people have hacked a solution out of the ecosystem that we have built. There are about 500,000 SMEs in Cambodia, and 98% of them are said to be micro SMEs. And more than 60% are estimated to be women-oriented. And almost all of them find newer ways to use WING every single day. And today we have over 10 million. I said we were the first failed fintech in Cambodia. And today, from those humble beginnings, we have about 10 million unique users in a smaller country of 16.5 million people. and the transaction volumes equal almost 90% of the country GDP value. Considering Cambodia has only 11 million people out of the 16.5, which are above the age of 15 years, we seem to be appealing to almost all of them. Now that's a little bit about Wing and our journey over the past 12 years. Rabia.
Thank you very much, Manu. I was going to ask you about the adoption rate, but you answered that question already by telling me that almost all the available Cambodians you caught already, and this is a huge success. And as we will come to that subject later a bit, how you support these women-led SMEs by these banking structures. But let me turn on now to Ms. Annie Matthew. Annie, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can, Rabia.
Yes. You are the head of the developer relations at Microsoft APAC, and Annie has extensive experience across software, wireless, IT, and manufacturing industries to support your important role at Microsoft in growing a vibrant ecosystem for developers across the region and to enable innovative solutions on the latest cloud technologies. A warm welcome to you, Eddie, and thank you for joining us. Let me stay with you and ask you a first question. Would you share a little about your cloud technology and digital products that have changed the playing fields for SMEs in the emerging market? Eddie, floor is yours.
Thanks, Rabia. It's a very inspiring time to be in if you are a technology player, because technology and digitalization has kind of leveled the playing field, if you will, for everyone, from big to small. And in fact, the small and medium businesses have an advantage now because it's harder for the large organizations to pivot and faster for the small ones if you use technology right and in the right ways. If you just look at the growth of digital consumers in Southeast Asia, it's expected to reach 310 million by the end of 2020. And this was the growth projected in a 2019 study for 2025. So the 5 years of acceleration has happened in just this 1 year alone. And if you look at Malaysia, the highest percentage of digital consumers in Southeast Asia seems to be in Malaysia with 83% of its population. And we see that about 48% are switching to purchases mostly online. This is a behavior across the board, but very definitely Malaysia is kind of leading with people going online very fast. When you come talk about the technology, so there are two aspects, the business scenario and the technology scenario. And on the technology side, now cloud computing is the new normal. And they say data is the new oil. So how that plays out is that consumer behaviors have changed. And if you just look at retail, for example, or any organization, when the lockdown happened and there was movement control, there was no way to reach your consumers and reach your products to them. And on the other hand, the consumers wanted different things. So you see retailers who were launching a summer fashion week and a winter fashion week suddenly going into a weekly fashion week. They were changing fashions every week because they were trying to figure out, is the consumer wanting homeware or top business and bottom homeware, or what is it? Is it yoga wear? So that's just in the clothing retail side. So everyone needed to understand this new consumer behavior very rapidly. And that's where data comes into play. So from a technology perspective, the most crucial element is about cloud computing, data, and of course, adding intelligence to it. So you have to very quickly cull insights from that data. Now, data is sitting in all disparate places. So how well can you structure your solutions to reach consumers, get that data, and start gathering insights from the data with which you can decide which line of fashion to go with, or which store to shut down, which store to focus on, etc. So from our perspective, from my perspective, I think avoiding risk isn't safe right now. You have to take a risk. You have to know where to invest on technology and actually use that technology as a lever to create that differentiate. And there's no disadvantage for women in this. There's no disadvantage for small business in this scenario. So I think there's an urgency, and just get to innovating with technology. That would be my top of the mind.
Thank you very much. Annie? Oops. Okay. So I have, sorry, we're having a technical glitch here. Okay, sorry, now. Annie, you're still there, sorry. This happens with webinars. I have a second question to you. In your opinion, what are the key technological products or developments that are still relatively untapped and could be game-changing for SMEs in the future?
Right. I think this whole understanding the consumer piece, when you look at it from a business side, is super critical. And that's critical because it addresses your top line of getting more reach, more consumers, more business, as well as your bottom line. Where should you reduce, focus on, or switch to a different business model, etc. So in Malaysia, Cameron Farmers is a very popular story out here, where they are out in the Cameron Highlands and they create a lot of fresh produce. And they used to, and it's very popular in Malaysia. But the minute the pandemic hit, their supply chain broke down, and there were tons and tons of fresh organic food that was just going to waste. So what they did was very quickly pivot. In 48 hours, they switched to digital with amazing help from Lazada folks, and they could now start getting all their produce back to the customers who are waiting for it. So what did they do? They actually opened their eyes and looked out for partners who can help them adopt technology. So if you're a small, medium business, it's not easy very quickly to start a technology team. But the point then is about to know that ecosystem and start working with partners who can help you adopt this technology very well. And so one of the areas is that about your supply chain and the digital supply chain that you should adopt. The other big one is just your own workforce, equipping them with whether it teams for collaboration or a simple office, or everything has gone digital. And if people are not energized in working together and being creative, then that's a huge loss to the organization, because it goes on a downward trend. So the whole employee productivity piece, where technology does play a crucial role, is something to focus on. Then I think the most important thing is back to data. So it's about collecting data and aggregating the data from different channels and able to make insights. And this would be the biggest differentiator in how you create a new business model or create a new channel, or just service your existing customers in a very different way. If you're not knowing what your customers want, it's very hard to run your business. So getting your data part together and then looking at it with, even if you just look at the data, you'll get insights. So start getting the data estate right. And it's not a hard thing. It's about, and there are tons of engineering students right now graduating who are equipped with all this technology and waiting to, and not having enough job opportunities. So if you're an SME and you do want to get digitalized, I mean, the first thing would be your employee base, get that technology skills in your organization, as well as basic digital upskilling for your organization, and go about understanding consumer behavior, collecting the data, and just looking for insights in that data. That's a great place to start.
Thank you very much, Annie. We probably hit later a few questions on data security and overcoming the fear of using data to that wide extent that you are suggesting. But before we get into this, I like to introduce our next panelist, Amanda Simanjuntak from Indonesia. Thank you very much, Amanda, for joining us. this morning.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'd like to quickly introduce you, of course. You are a serial entrepreneur. I like that word. But you're also the chief of evolution of Skillful. That is an online vocational and certification platform. Impact Byte, a technological education company, and Mark Coding, a non-profit organization to teach coding to youth in marginalized areas in Indonesia. This is outright brilliant. And you are a trained programmer, the first female I met, actually, and you started your entrepreneurial journey as a founder and consultant of an e-commerce firm. So welcome on board, Amanda.
Thank you, Rebecca.
My first question to you is, tell us a little bit about your motivation to start Impact Byte, Skillful, and Mark Coding in Indonesia, and what opportunities do you see for the youth in Indonesia through these enterprises? So, floor is yours, Amanda.
Thank you, Rabia. A little bit about background of my motivation of what I do right now is because when I was running my consulting firm, our company were having a difficult time in recruiting good software, competent software developers. And I'm sure everybody here, especially those in Indonesia, also have this problem. So our clients and every company that in tech sector, we're having difficulties in recruiting programmers. And apparently, if we look at the statistics, it is estimated in 10 years, Indonesia only experience 9 million tech talent shortage. So it's a very big number. Ironically, at the same time, the highest contributors for unemployment rate comes from school graduates. So there's a big difference in the skills that the youth have and also the skills that the industry needs. So there's definitely a skills gap or a skills mismatch there. Then I see an opportunities there because having on-demand digital tech skills for the youth can be their vehicle to get out of the poverty. So then I shift into education sector. I started with a non-profit organization first, Coding. So Mark Coding is a non-profit organization with a mission to introduce coding to underprivileged youth in Indonesia. But then after running it for about a year, I found it very hard to run a non-profit model in Indonesia. It is not sustainable because we have to depend on donations and also grants. So after that, I set up a different, which is a coding bootcamp. It's called Impact Byte. Impact Byte is a intensive code training for 3 months. And then we produce job-ready programmers, and then we connect them to jobs, to hiring partners after they graduate. And then after running it for about 2 years, we also find it running, because we do a face-to-face training. So we are limited by the capacity of our venue and our mentors. So at a time, we can only run about 20 participants at a time in one batch. It's very limited. So that's why we want to shift our solution to the digital. So even though we teach coding, but we do training face-to-face. So we made the decision to transform our model into online model. So we do virtual training, a blended learning training. Actually, we plan to launch the solution at the end of this year, but because of the pandemic, then we were forced to accelerate, and we launched it like 6 months earlier in April. So that's so even we just have to launch with what we have at the moment. So, but apparently we got the momentum, and now in 6 months we have reached 10,000 users registrations. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background and also my motivation to do these companies.
Thank you very much, Amanda. One quick question. Would you be able to tell us how many young people, how many youth you worked with or placed in jobs? Put it into figures.
Yeah.
Quite a large and impressive one.
So for our Job Ready Bootcamp, so it's the face-to-face training one, we already have 200 plus participants graduated from our bootcamp, and 88% of them are hired within 1 month of graduation. So that's our success indicator. We want them to get hired straight away from our bootcamp within 1 month. And the rest of them all got hired, but after a month. And that's for the Job Ready Bootcamp. And for the online platform, the Skillful, the outcome is different. The outcome is for upskilling. We already have 10,000 users up to now that are doing our online classes. And our goal is we want to provide education that is accessible, with a shorter duration and also a fraction of the cost of a regular university. That's about it.
Amazing. And it's growing, of course, I suppose. Thank you very much, Amanda, for that quick intervention. I, last but not least, of course, like to turn on to our last participant on our reign here, Miss Na Sho Aatun. Good morning, Sho. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Thank you for being so patient.
No problem.
Quickly to your very impressive biography. You're a deputy party chief, a technical advisor to the USAID Transparency and Inclusive Growth activity. And that is a 4-year, 19 million program where you assist with mitigating economic causes of conflict and inequality in Myanmar. You focus on shared resources and infrastructure development and on economic reforms for inclusive growth in that program. So thank you very much for joining us. And we want to hear a bit about your experience and hear you from your angle. So my question to you is, the program is a very exciting and ambitious endeavor, and please share with us the digitalization factor of the program and your experiences with it.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share perspectives from Myanmar. I will be sharing my perspectives as part of being a member of people who build a strong ecosystem for the country, a strong enabling environment for the country in the last 6.5 years or 7 years. So actually it's coincides with Myanmar's journey to digitalization. And as you mentioned in the introduction, yes, I'm working for a USAID-funded Transparency and Inclusive Growth activity, and it's a 4-year program. Actually, we have been only on this program for only 1 year. Prior to that, I also worked for another USAID-funded private sector development program. So I will try to bring our experiences over the course of last 6 or 7 years, which again coincides with Myanmar's journey to digitization. The reason I said is Myanmar started digitization in around 2013 or 2014 is that, before 2013, there was only one state-owned mobile operator. And if I have to throw out some statistics, in 2013, there were only 13% of populations who have access to mobile phone, not even smartphone. And 1.4% of the population had fixed landline. And barely 1% of the people have access to the internet. So after the liberalization of the telecom sector, we have seen an exponential increase in mobile telephone access and smartphone access. So for our work, although we are seeing unprecedented positive changes and improvement, we still need a lot more stronger ecosystem than we have today. So I would like to put our approach in 3 or probably 4 categories. The first one is working with government to improve the regulatory environment, to reform the regulatory regime. So as you know, when we talk about digitalization, and today's topic is about digitalization of women-owned SME, but as you know, digitalization about inclusion. You know, it's not only about businesses. Everyone in our society, whether government or consumers or workers or businesses, big and small, we all have to be on board in order to maximize benefits from digitalization. So as a country that has opened up to the world quite recently, as recent as 10 years ago, so we do need to strengthen the regulatory framework quite a bit. So we are working with the government to strengthen or reform a range of regulatory issues that are crucial for digitalization. For example, we have worked with the government to strengthen the intellectual property regime. So about 6 years ago, well, actually until a year ago, Myanmar's intellectual property laws are as old as from the colonial time. So, you know, the government has done a great job to pass 4 modern intellectual property laws as of last year. So that's a remarkable achievement. And also we work with, you know, financial regulatory departments to improve a lot of financial related regulations. Obviously, you know, we are not the only one, but we work with other development partners, other local champions. And another thing is we also work with the government to improve consumer protection regime, and also how consumer can submit their consumer complaints through online platform. And we also work with the government. Right now, we are discussing with the government and all other stakeholders on how to facilitate the increasing number of e-commerce businesses. So these are some of the examples that we are doing to strengthen the regulatory regime. And just to point out one, in Myanmar, there's no law on cybersecurity yet, so which is very important. And to my knowledge, there's no law to protect data as well as privacy issue. There are some existing law, but they are not sufficient for digitalization. That's one. And secondly, we are also providing technical support and financial support to a range of government to digitize their public services that are essential to business activities and trade activities. For example, we are working with Ministry of Commerce to set up Myanmar National Trade Portal, which is required by all ASEAN member states. Other countries, I believe they have their own national trade portal where they have to put all their import and export information, regulations, procedures online. And also we are providing technical support to the government to upgrade their online trade license platform. Likewise, we're working with the customs to set up national single window through which traders in ASEAN region can exchange necessary information to trade with other ASEAN countries. So the electronic means. So these are some of the examples that we are trying to help the public sector ready for digital economy. And in doing so, we have to procure IT services, we have to procure hardware equipments, we have to help procure some cloud services. So that's the second point. And as the third point, in terms of working with private sector, instead of helping at a firm level, we are working with, or we are supporting a number of enabling or ecosystem builders. For example, you know, we are working with Pandia to Pandia is the country's innovation lab. So we have supported them to organize startup challenge, accelerator program, robotic competition. So among them, we can see a lot of young women. But in terms of percentage, you know, I must say that the percentage is still quite low. And also we are working with some local champions, for example, Myanmar Intellectual and Proprietor Association. So this is a organic, you know, homegrown organization led by legal professionals and private sectors who are passionate about protecting and promoting intellectual property protection. So we have provided grants to them. And likewise, we have supported Myanmar Microfinance Associations. We have supported, Myanmar Consumer Union. So things like that. And also in terms of connecting Myanmar with international leading tech companies, in around 2014, USAID and in partnership with US leading IT company, we have set up US ICT Council for Myanmar, basically, to advocate for stronger policy environment for digitalization, as well as to provide much needed digital literacy programs to stakeholders across the board. And also, yes, thank you. Yes,
I have to. I'm sorry, I have to look a little bit at the time.
Sure.
That's not to say that it's not intriguing what you just say. We will tap into your experiences a little later. What I would like to do at that point of time is to engage our audience, of which we have many. So I want to re-engage those who are watching us online on Zoom. And we have a question for you. We're doing a little audience poll just to regain your opinion or to engage you. There will be a question popping up on your window. I hope that I will see that as well. Here it is. Are you currently going through a digital transformation? Please give us your answers now. And we like to work with the percentage that comes out. So just tap in yes or not in the near future, or you're considering to go digital. So as it seems, we have a very high percentage of our audience who are undergoing a digital transformation, 81% I have seen. So thank you for doing this with us. There will be another one, stay tuned. We want to have you with us here. So the advance of digitalization has opened up many new opportunities, this much we know, for women SMEs. However, our research that we have conducted in our studies shows that there are challenges, systemic or circumstantial, that impede women-led, women-owned SMEs from fully embracing digital economy. So we have 3 minutes for our speakers, and I like to go now into our next session. I like to tend to Manu again to re-engage you. Manu, our research shows that digital literacy is among the top 3 challenges in Cambodia. What are WING's initiatives in that area?
Rabia, you're absolutely right. Our experience from the initial years taught us that in developing countries, people belonging to especially the bottom of the income pyramid, they lack the digital literacy to fully tap the benefits of mobile financial services. That's why you will see that even in countries with near 100% smartphone penetration, you will see that there is very low digital adoption. But we also learned that when you try to enforce it by being restrictive, you may end up compromising on the adoption. So for the short term, we created a model. We call it the assisted digital transaction model using WING agents, who we call the mobile sales force. And the mobile sales force are also used for onboarding customers onto the mobile apps, which with a crash course on how to use it. So when you're onboarding a customer, you're also giving them a quick stand-up training on how to use the app and how to make full use of the different services, solutions, and products that we have on the app. So we see much better retention rate among these customers who are onboarded with this little bit of a crash course on how to on digital literacy than the normal digital channels, which gives us a lot of numbers, but the retention rate on those channels are relatively lower when you consider this in-person acquisition that takes place on ground. So that's one of the things that we do for digital literacy. And in cash dominant economies, customers want to feel the cash in their hands, and Cambodia is one of them. And they feel very comfortable doing that. So any Cambodian can walk into a WING agent, identify themselves with their mobile numbers, as I mentioned, because that's what we use as a unique identifier. They hand over the cash over the counter to the agent, and the agent on their behalf will carry out the digital transaction. So it is still a digital transaction. You're still capturing a unique identifier. You're still capturing data on the transactions that are taking place. But for the customer, there is less of an enforced behavioral change that takes place on ground. And we see that everywhere. To give an example, we manage the payroll of almost 20% of the country's factory workers. And they get, and predominantly most of the garment factory workers in Cambodia are women. They get paid into their Wing wallets every fortnight. And they can use the Wing app to send the money to their families back home, or pay rent, or do phone top up, or pay back loan, or etc., or pay back their insurance premium. But interestingly, they visit an agent in front of the factory, cash out the money, and then they give it back to the same agent and ask them to send the money back to their family members, fully knowing that if you do the transaction yourself using the app, it costs you less money, or sometimes even absolutely free. But they will still prefer to do it by handing over the cash to the agent because they trust the man more than the machine. So it's a self-confidence, though they trust the brand because it's very important. They identify with the use cases, but the lack of self-confidence is what drives them to do this. So at Wing,
Manu, just allow me a quick question in between. I'm sorry. Do you see an age barrier with this behavior? Is it more the older population? Do the young factory workers overcome those fears, or is it outright fear for technical solutions?
Good question, Rabia. So absolutely spot on, because the average age of Cambodia is the median age is about 25 years, and the average age of a Wing customer onboarded is 30 years. So we have the slightly older population. That's also because the use cases that we create are more for the elderly, and you pay back your loan, you pay back your insurance premium, you send money, you get your salaries, etc. And when we look at the younger population, which is lower than 25 years of age, we also realize the fact that they are the ones who have a higher percentage of smartphones with them, and they are the ones who are more confident in using these digital transactions themselves. So that's also very promising, because with more than half of the country's population being less than 25 years of age, we foresee an explosive growth that will happen in digital payments in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's okay. So should I complete what I was trying to say? Or?
Yes, please. Sorry about this. It was just so intriguing.
No, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. So at Wing, so that's one of the things that we do, and then we try and create more and more user-friendly and compelling use cases for them to break out of this inertia and then use the app themselves. And another example is the factory workers get paid on average a little above the minimum wage that the country requires people to pay. But if there is a sudden medical emergency at home, then they will be in sudden requirement of money, and then exposed to loan sharks because they do not have formal financial relationships with financial organizations. So we extend them loans that are unsecured, and it can be bought off the Wing app with a few clicks. So there is complete relevance to the use case over there, and the use case then drives the digital adoption. So because I have a requirement and there is an easier way to fulfill that requirement, and since that requirement is fulfilled digitally, they are more forced and compelled to go and learn how to do that digitally. And we work with K-Bank, the Kasikon Bank, to do that. And similarly, they don't end up saving a lot of money every month. No bank is interested in a factory worker who might be ending up saving about $5 at the end of the month or $10 at the end of the month. So we started a micro savings account for them, and that they can open again with a few clicks on their app. So we do that with the J-Trust Royal Bank, and they provide better than market interest rates for micro savings. Again, a compelling reason for them to learn how to do this digitally. So we constantly conduct training sessions at factories, etc., publish how-to videos, do radio shows to spread awareness. But in our opinion, the best way to drive digital adoption is by creating compelling value propositions that will make their lives better. And of course, we should present it to them in a user-friendly way. So yeah, so that's some of the things that we do at Wing.
Thank you very much, Manu. I want to touch upon the experience from Malaysia. Annie, over to you. The findings in our Malaysia report identified cultural and mindset as an overarching challenge. Just like a little bit along the lines what we just heard from Manu, can you maybe elaborate on this from the Malaysian perspective? And also, second question right before, because I think we're running a bit of overtime. Digitalization takes precedence in many facets of our life, that much is clear. Do you see a digital divide across social stratas, across gender? Do you see this growing wider in Malaysia? Annie, floor is yours.
I'll start with the first one. And I just saw a question in the chat window about what is digital transformation? Is it a point in time solution or is it a journey? So those two are tied together. And I think that that's the crux of the whole thing. It's not about an application that you create digitally. It's not that if I do 3 applications, now I'm digitally transformed. Truly at the crux of digital transformation is the shift, the cultural shift to a digital mindset. Now, what does that mean? There are about 5 attributes that we talk about in a digital culture that is required for being digitalized. The first is the agility. So your ability to respond to change with past experiments. So if you're afraid of technology or if you've not done this before, the place to start would be rapid experimentation with this, and you continue with that. The second is a digital mindset, and that is about approaching any new challenge or opportunity, thinking that there's a digital solution to this. So it's a different way of looking at things than when you were not digital. The third thing is about customer centricity, and I spoke a little bit about that earlier. It's a wrap your business around future customers and learn from the consumer behavior to create that. Then the fourth is about data-informed decision-making, my hot topic. It's about getting data and the insight. That's at the core of digital transformation. The last is about collaboration. It's like a network of open ways and cross-group, cross-community, cross-company collaboration that all becomes part of the digital culture. So in Malaysia, when we looked at this was something that we found as a blocker. The whole growth mindset that is required to be able to create that shift to a digital culture within your organization. And when you talk about growth mindset, it's about wanting to take risk. It's about moving from I know it all to learn it all. And Microsoft is very known for this, with Satya Nadella over the last 4 years having made a significant shift, and it did not happen overnight. It's a 4 or 5 year journey where everybody had to start with a mindset of, okay, I may be in this role or in this position, but I have to learn it all over again. And there's a ton of things to learn. So I saw that in the research and in the conversations that we had with a bunch of other people from SME, that it hit up on the same point that a woman SME sitting here is like, I'm comfortable. I have this business and I'm not looking for risk or growth, because growth means risk, and you want to be in that comfort zone. And so the growth mindset to drive a digital cultural transformation, both within and then reaching out, is at the crux of this whole thing. So we saw 11% in that survey saying they're not going to look at digital, and that's scary. Why? I would have assumed it to be 0 now in this day and age, that everything has gone digital. If you're still thinking that you don't need digital transformation, then that is a worry. So, and it may be fear. And yeah. So your second question, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. That was tackling on the changing identified cultural and mindset as an overarching challenge. I think we have already begun to answer this as much as I was asking about the divide that you are seeing across gender and social stratas. by using digital solutions. And I think it's the fear that we've been talking about, and we see this a lot also in our own society in Europe. I think this is a very, very common challenge that we have to overcome altogether.
Absolutely. And I think the fear is a big risk today, because if you, and we said it's a leveler, it's this time and moment in time when technology is a great leveler. It doesn't matter who you are, what race, what religion, what sex, which country, the whole world market is yours. And now if you are afraid and you do not take that next step, then that will create that digital divide. And that fear is what will create the digital divide, not the gender, not ethnicity, not whether you are in rural or urban. Of course, there are connection, Wi-Fi, all that infrastructure problems that may cramp your style, but essentially it is about overcoming fear, absorbing that growth mindset, and making sure that there is no digital divide. So it's up to each one of us to create that divide. And if we do not get onto that digital transformation journey with an urgency, it will create that divide. And it's not between women and men, it's just between people who have that growth mindset and people who do not.
This is maybe a question that also can touch us more upon Amanda's. I wonder, because we have been discussing that the digital divide has to do with education and especially girls not being able to access the technology education that it needs to, or the education being behind. What you're saying is it's fear. That how do you what role would education play in that context at all, if any, coming from your arguments?
Yeah, so fear is actually a component of the VUCA environment. It's the volatility, the uncertainty, the ambiguity. And that's where education plays a huge role, because if you go sit in the class and understand what is this digital transformation, is it as simple as creating a small board, or is it as complex as creating an AI system? And it can be anywhere and useful to you. If you know that, so education, I think, is central to taking away the fear. The other piece that would be is access to experts, access to mentors who can guide you through that journey, because it's not a one app thing, it's a few years of digital transformation journey. So having access to both, one part is education, the other is access to mentors and coaches who can kind of navigate you through that journey are equally important. So yes, Amanda's point is super important. Education becomes a core piece.
Amanda, right over to you. You've been nodding your head. Would you like to comment on the educational part?
Yeah. So currently also in our boot camps and also in all of our programs, I would say we're still haven't got our target for women's participation in our education. Currently, we only have around 20%, and we're trying to push it to 50%. So we want to have an equal gender in our program. But what I've found in terms of skills, there's no difference between men or women in learning digital skills. There's no difference in terms of skills. But in terms of confidence, women are tends to have not confident about learning something that is more technology related. So once we did a research on our training, we trained high school students, and apparently the girls were more have higher score compared to the to boys. But when we did a survey on what they want to be after they graduate, the women, the girls, they're not confident about their skills, but they actually have higher scores. So confidence, and also I would say women need to have more role models in technology, so they can have someone to look up to, and they know that women can also do it and also have an equal opportunity with men in technology.
Thank you very much, Amanda. The word role models is something that Muna rings a bell upon. We had a panel on missing role models for women entrepreneurs the other week. But Amanda, I have a very exciting question to you from the audience, and you will like that one. If you are not able to recruit talent within Indonesia, wouldn't technology or virtual working cultures allow you to recruit talent from anywhere in the world? And how can we increase domestic competitiveness?
So actually, that's what we did at first. We outsourced our projects to India, to Sri Lanka, even to Vietnam, because the quality of the software developers are better there. But then I realized that we have to empower our own local talents. So we have to upskill them. The solution is to upskill them, not to recruit, not to outsource the project. So I would say, sorry, what's the second? I think you have a second, right?
Yes, there was a second aspect. How can we increase domestic competitiveness? You just touched upon that one as well.
Yes, so we have to engage all of the stakeholders, especially for the industry. So that's actually what we did with our company. We engage, we have 150 corporates, companies as our hiring partners. And we regularly survey them about what they need in terms of talents, what sort of skills they need, because in technology, everything is changing so fast. So in order to keep up, we also refine our curriculum every 2 months to keep with industry's demand. So I would say an engagement between all stakeholders, with us as an education provider, the corporates who will hire them, and so from the government.
Thank you very much, Amanda. There are so many more questions, also to you, or especially to you, but I like to turn to Sho now. And after Sho's answer, we will have another opinion poll, the last one for today. So watch out for this, and then we will turn to your other public questions. So Sho, can you still hear us? Is the internet connection holding up? Wonderful.
Yes.
Our research showed that access to finance was the key challenge for women-owned SMEs in Myanmar. Critical barriers to access financing were regulations, for example, awareness and skills. Could you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yes. So actually in Myanmar, access to finance is difficult for all businesses across the board. Not only for women, and regulations does play a role, but specific to financial regulations, I must say that in the recent years, we have seen a lot of good improvement. So actually, in terms of regulations, it's outside of financial sector. For example, in order for businesses to get access to formal loans from banks, you have to have all kinds of documents, formal documents. So the reality in Myanmar is a lot of small businesses, even some medium businesses, they are not in formal sector. So there are a lot of regulatory barriers for businesses to be motivated to join the formal sector. For example, taxation issues, land rights issues. So these are other barriers, the regulatory barriers that we have to overcome. And another thing is also what we are calling the missing middle. So for micro businesses, we have microfinance institutions that can offer loans, allow up to around, I guess, 8,000 or something like that. But in reality, in the absence of a credit bureau in the country, MFIs, they are not willing to take that much risk. So the average loan size would be, I guess the highest would be, I would say, 2,000, 3,000. That's even for the high end. But for the larger businesses, in the context of Myanmar, they have immovable assets to put as a collateral, because without credit bureaus, so for banks, like the immovable assets such as land or property, so those are required for businesses to get loans. But because the application reviewing process, scoring, evaluation process is so cumbersome, so they cannot take risks to give loans to businesses that need for example, loan amount of $50,000 or even like $200,000. So usually banks give loans to larger businesses, established ones that have less risk. So we still have a lot of problems for what we are calling missing middle. So there are a few solutions for that. For example, as our project, USAID has partnered with some commercial banks to provide a loan risk guarantee scheme. So basically, it's an incentive for banks to provide and secure loans to what I mentioned as a missing middle. So it's a 50-50 risk guarantee scheme. So this is one of the solutions that we have. But in the long run, we do need to have a well-functioning credit bureau. And I'm aware that it is underway. But even then, let's say next year, we are able to establish credit bureau. What are you going to measure? Because all the, very few people, I would say less than 10% of the population use credit cards, and all the utility payments are still more or less in manual. So I think even if we are able to establish credit bureau, I think it will still take some time to be able to measure the credit worthiness of potential borrowers. So these are the challenges that we are facing. Yeah. So, but I guess in specific to gender, yes, there is a digital gap for sure. So if you talk to women around myself at the urban centers, so everyone use mobile phone and everyone have access to internet. But the reality is when you look at statistics and data, not only in Myanmar, but across the world, even in developed countries. For example, in Myanmar, according to statistics, 28% of women are less likely than men to own mobile phone. So when you talk about mobile access, in mobile internet access, that's even less. And also the culture plays a role. For example, as I mentioned, you need to have a land title to be able to put as a collateral to get access to loans. But in some culture, women don't have their name on the land title. It's usually men. So it varies. There are a lot of variables, but I guess the point I would like to make is that in the context of Myanmar, we just need to improve the whole ecosystem to lift everyone up. So that's the point I would like to make.
Very, very true, Cho. Very true. We will come back to this in our last round. We are behind time, unfortunately, but it is fascinating to listen to you. We have now our next opinion poll, and I call upon our audience again. Tell us which is the key challenge in considering or embarking on digital transformation for your organization. Which would be your key challenge in engaging the digital economy? You see the question on your screen, and you have 1 minute to click on access to financing, access to strategy, or access to talents. So please help us to understand the angles that you are coming from. And again, we will see the poll's result on our screen.
So while we wait for the results, can I say one thing?
Yes, please.
Okay.
1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
1 minute,
yes.
Because then we see the results.
Right. Yes. So yes. So we talked about the difficulty to get access to the internet, but I would like to give an encouragement. One piece of advice is in the age of digitalization, I think there are a lot of innovative things that you can do without a big investment. For example, if you know how to do coding like Amanda does, or if you know how to do, creative products, digital content. So there are so many ways that you can run business in the world of digitalization without having a huge amount of startup capital. So education is very important. Yeah, so that's one thing I would like to share.
Thank you very much. Your point is taken precisely. We see the poll results now. So we have a slight overturn to access to talents. So that brings us to our Can you all see it?
Yes.
You all see the, okay. So I will close it for myself and I will turn to our last, subject here. And I want to start with Manu again. One recommendation for Cambodia was a one-stop portal for the women-owned SMEs. Can you explain on this? And another question that I tend to you is what more can be done to improve the women-owned SME ecosystem in Cambodia, and what role would WING play? I do urge you, all of you, because we are behind time, to keep it short and precise. We want to move a little bit, of course, to the question that we have gathered so far from the Q&A. So please make it precise and informative. But I'm sure, Manu, you can do this. Over to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. So Cambodia has a lot of entrepreneurs, and we have more than 300 startups in Cambodia, and a lot of them are in e-commerce space, but they all still struggle to generate a lot of transactions. I'm trying to answer the first question. So why should there be a one-stop portal for WSMEs? One observation is that the efforts get fragmented because of too many startups trying to focus on, everybody wants to build an Amazon or an Alibaba from ground up themselves. And in that context, a single aggregator who can bring easy access to the market, access to finance, and access to technology would be a great idea. And during COVID, we noticed that our SMEs and our farmers struggled with the lack of access to markets. And as one of the panelists really mentioned, when the borders were closed. A digital marketplace that can cost effectively, and that's very important, cost effectively provide them with access to market and access to technology and also access to finance, which is, though I know that it didn't reflect so much on the poll, but I guess that's a very, very crucial factor for growing women SMEs, especially in countries like Cambodia, which are predominantly patriarchal. So you don't have documents on your name, and then you have, you know how to, for example, you know how to cook tasty food, but you don't have the working capital to start a business because the documents are all in the names of the male at home. So access to finance, therefore, also is a big problem. So that's where I'm trying to answer the second part of the question. So how can WING help in that? So that's where organizations like WING come into play. So we have over 10 million users, more than 70 financial institutions on the platform, over 500 corporate partners. Majority of these corporate partners are buyers from SMEs, and close to 200 APIs connected on our platform. We cover every single district and every single commune through the 8,200 plus agents that we have. We have the capability to facilitate payments across 200 countries. And we have partnerships with MasterCard, Visa, Western Union, MoneyGram, etc. that helps them. So if an SME tries to do all that on their own, it is going to take them years. So there is a company that has already done all these things. And we believe it's our responsibility to the country that we bring or we share this kind of reach that we have to the market, not domestically, but also globally, and the access to the finance that we can create for them with these partnerships we have with the financial institutions. It becomes our responsibility. So we are working with the public and private sector partners right now to create an aggregated platform that can be used to generate leads for the SMEs in Cambodia. And we have our own B2B platform and B2B portal, but we intend to bring that reach into every SME in the country so that they can get to leverage that access to the market, technology, and finance. Sarabia, over to you.
Thank you very much, Manu. Annie, I like to come over to you and stick with the subject of partnerships, the keyword that Manu just mentioned. How can corporations and cross-sectoral partnerships further contribute to women-owned SMEs being involved in the digital economy? Maybe you can cite from your Malaysian experience or give us a broad, a broad hint or broad answer. Watch the time.
Yeah. So I think partnerships is key, because when you're looking at digitalization and you first think about, you think about the value chain to getting digitalized. So first is the awareness of what you need to do. And then there are partner with organizations, so there are these women in SME organization which can partner and hence bring a larger partnership to you. So partner with technology players, partner with accelerators, and in our discussion that was one thing, that if there is a good women centric accelerator which brings all of this together with a government interest in it, a lot of things can be accelerated for them. Because when you look at adoption of digitalization, they may not know that you don't even need to code to be digitalization. We saw in the survey access to talent being big. And I would say to all of you out there who have never done a bit of coding today, you are that talent. For example, the no code, low code movement is huge now. So if you want to create a mobile application, you can do it in a day. You yourself, it's just drag and drop what you want and create it. So do you know that you are the talent? So talent is out there. But then if you have a kind of an accelerator which brings various partnerships, like you need university partnership to draw more, if you want to do more, then you need some technology players. If you need financial access, all of that is coming together. It may be difficult, like Manu said earlier, for each one to go and find partnerships across all of this. So I think it's imperative for governments to play a role here, understand that women need that a little bit of access and enablement, and maybe an accelerator is one solution, maybe other ways of doing this, but definitely needs an intervention there to bring partnerships together that can be accessed by a lot of women SMEs.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Amanda. From your Indonesian experiences, lack of knowledge, resources, and skills were cited as the top 3 challenges that women-owned SMEs faced in Indonesia. What needs to be done better to support them? 3 minutes.
Okay, so most important thing is they should have access to better infrastructure, which is internet connection and also device. We have a lot of experience in, our students have to go outside in their yard, and also even one student have to climb a tree to get signals to join our online training. So I think first and foremost is the internet connection, the infrastructure. So after that, then you can start to talk about they have to get trainings that about entrepreneurship, and also trainings about something that are more specific to what they do. And also they also need mentorships and also guidance from experts. And yeah, I think lastly, they need access to funding that are that can cater to what they need.
Thank you very much, Amanda. So last round, Show, over to you. The need to differentiate small enterprises from medium and large enterprises as to provide appropriate financial services and digital products was cited in the Myanmar report as a challenge. Can you contextualize this for us? 3 minutes.
Yes, sure. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, so there is a reality that people outside the urban city, both men and women, especially women, they have difficulties in accessing. So it's not only the internet access, but also the device. So without device, you cannot do anything. And also the education is also very important. So you need, yes, reliable internet access, you need affordable device, and also you need the skills and knowledge on how to use it. And also, especially for small businesses or women in rural area with less education, they need awareness about digital safety. And also we need, because, we are talking about a country that has opened up to the world only 10 years ago. Prior to that, we only had, limited sources of information. Even we didn't have independent media, only state-owned, media running, giving information for the people. So we need critical thinking skills, because people are bombarded with loads and loads of information, and people are very vulnerable to fake news and hate messages. So I think that in order to close the digital divide, we also need to emphasize on the disparity outside of the digital world. So they are not mutually exclusive. So unless you have policies, programs, and support programs, educational programs to close the digital divide outside the digital world, then you will be able to take more advantage of digitalization for women and SMEs. And also we need a lot of tailored programs targeting smaller and marginalized women to be able to take advantage of digitalizations. And there are a lot of programs outside of our programs. There are other donor programs that are focusing on financial inclusion and conflict in marginalized communities. And also one last thing that I wanted to point is that in light of COVID, the government has announced, unprecedented program on COVID economic response program. And then now we understand that they are preparing a follow-up program, MERRP, Myanmar Economic Recovery and Reform Program, which is yet to be released. But we heard that in that program, they have included promoting innovation and digitalization as an engine for recovery. And then under that, they have put emphasis on providing digital education, access to finance for women-owned small and medium enterprises. So this is, for the context of Myanmar, it is quite exciting. So I hope that there will be opportunities for people like us and also local champions, private sector or civil society organization to work together with the government to bring fruits to the table to much needed community.
Thank you very much, Sho.
Sure.
We are out of time a little bit because I want Sucheta, who is coming after me, to give her a few moments to wrap up the session. With you, I'm not done yet, of course. I want to have one sentence. What will or is your message? And you can decide to whom, if you address it to the government, to the entrepreneurs, to the banks. What is your message on enabling women on the path of success? I like to come back to the actual book that we're doing. So what is your advice to the women out there, to the entrepreneurs out there to be successful? Mano, floor is yours. You're muted, unfortunately.
Sorry, that had to happen, as you said. Okay.
That one sentence of advice we want to have from you, and from everyone for that matter, but I like to start with you.
Sure. The message has to be to the financial institutions, ironically like us, to take more risks and provide easy access to finance for these women SMEs. And once we do that, they will manage the rest. So take more risks, provide easy access to finance.
Wonderful. Quoted. Amanda, your turn.
Okay, my message will be for all fellow women entrepreneurs in this such a difficult time during this pandemic. We cannot give up, we cannot lose hope, and we should embrace this moment as an opportunity to explore, experiment, and also accelerate.
Thank you. So over to you, one sentence. And not too many commas.
Sorry?
Not too many commas.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so I would say digitalization has a huge potential to improve efficiency, but it's not a panacea. For a country like Myanmar, we need to do a lot of groundwork to be able to take full advantage of digitalization, and it's all about inclusion. So everyone needs to be on board. So we need to have physical connectivity in place to be able to have digital connectivity. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Annie, your closing sentence, your advice to the women entrepreneurs.
Yeah, my advice to the women entrepreneurs out there would be, this is your time. Digitalization is a journey. So embrace a growth mindset.
Very good. Thank you so much. We are through. We have not touched upon, of course, data security. That is a subject actually of its own to take away fear and hesitation. We have also spared out the COVID repercussions on businesses and what challenges arise from there. You have included it in your speeches. So this is addressing to Mona. There is lots more to discuss about, and I'm looking very much forward to the overall report that we're doing. And I hope that momentum and Kaz and all of you, my dear panelists, can continue cooperation. I thought it was a brilliant, exciting session. Thank you for your insights, for sharing your experiences with us, and for being here today. I want to hand over stolen 2 minutes of her time to Sucheta Tuk, who is joining us from Cambodia. Where are you? Can we see you? And you have the honor to close this wonderful webinar. So from my side, thank you very much to everyone who contributed, who organized, and I hope that we all meet again in person or through Zoom. Who knows? So, Sucheta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning from Cambodia. I'm Sucheta Tu, I'm a Southeast Asia Director of Momentum and also the co-founder of VMall e-commerce for local made product in Cambodia. I'm so glad to listen to all your expertise here and also your experience sharing in this group. And I'm so thankful to Konrad-Adenauer that provide this opportunity, and also with Momentum work together for the past 6 months. It's very tough time during COVID, and the researcher have done a great job. I'm so thankful for all the hard work and the effort that they put into this research report. And I cannot wait to see the report actually. And also I would like to call for action because I can hear a lot from all the experts here about access to finance, access to education, access to technology. And also we have different key players here. So I'm so glad that we can have many players in our webinar. So my first call for action is to SME, I mean to women entrepreneur. So you need to be confident, you need to be invest in yourself, you need to invest in yourself, you need to invest in people, because you just said about access to talent is the issue. So I call for action to women entrepreneur or entrepreneur as a whole to invest in yourself, invest in people. Yeah. And my second call for action to community, because we know a lot that a lot of projects, a lot of initiative going on. So I call for action to join hands, to join force, to work together. So then we can diversify resources together, and then we will have a strong force to make a difference. So this is my call for action to a community and the player. And my third call for action to policy maker, because policy maker play important role to make enabling environment to all the key players in each country. And I would like to highlight one important trade agreement, free trade agreement that recently a lot of discussion over there is about also the regional comprehensive partnership agreement. And then we are in Asia, and then we should take that opportunity to look the trade agreement and how trade agreement can benefit to SME and also e-commerce and other cyber security. All those things are in free trade agreement also. So I would say as a government or other player, we should look at the free trade agreement. How can we work together to make maximum benefit from those trade agreements? Just one example. And for the financial, I would say that you should invest in women businesses. So important, because you invest in women, you invest in the world. Yes. And my last quote, my last sentence. You wait to die, or you try learn to win. So be the first in the digital adoption of your business playing field. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Suchita. Thank you very much for your closing remarks. And thank you everyone for, thank you Rabia for moderating this session. Thank you for our speakers for contributing your insights, and to the audience for being there. If you have any questions, you can always drop them via email or our Facebook page, and we can probably dispatch them to the speakers later and give you more work maybe. Okay, so we're a little bit 3 minutes behind, but that's not too much. So I would like to officially close the session, and thank you very much for joining us.